Let me ask you something, and I want you to be honest with yourself while you're listening right now. Have you ever stayed quiet in a meeting, a classroom, or even with friends, not because you didn't know what to say, but because you were scared your English might be wrong? Scared of sounding foolish, scared of being judged, scared of making a mistake that everyone would remember. If that question hit you a little hard, stay with us, because tonight's conversation might change the way you see your English forever. Hello and welcome back to Radio Podcast Studio. I'm Amna, and this is not just a podcast episode. This is a conversation that millions of people around the world are quietly having inside their heads every single day. English, mistakes, confidence, fear, growth, and the truth nobody tells non-native speakers. Sitting with me in the studio today is someone who has spent years listening to real learners, real struggles, real embarrassment, and real success stories. Alex, thank you for being here.
Amna, thank you for having me. And I have to say that opening question you asked, that silence you described, I've seen it so many times, and honestly, I felt it myself.
That's powerful already. And Alex, before we go any further, I want to say this directly to our listeners. If English is not your first language, this conversation is for you. If you've ever been corrected in a way that hurt, this is for you. If you've ever thought, my English will never be good enough, please don't go anywhere, because today we're talking about common English mistakes non-native speakers make, but not in a way that shames you, in a way that finally frees you.
That's such an important point, Amna, because the word mistake itself scares people. They think mistakes mean failure, but mistakes are actually evidence of effort, and no one ever tells learners that.
Exactly. And let's be real for a moment. English today isn't just a language. It's power, it's access, it's opportunity. It decides who gets heard and who stays invisible. So when someone struggles with English, it's not just about grammar, it's emotional.
100%. I've met incredibly intelligent people, engineers, doctors, entrepreneurs, who felt small simply because they couldn't express themselves perfectly in English. And that's heartbreaking.
And that's why this topic matters today more than ever. According to recent global estimates, more than 1.5 billion people are learning English worldwide. That means most English speakers are actually non-native. Yet somehow the pressure to sound perfect has never been higher.
And the irony is, native speakers make mistakes all the time. They just don't get punished for it.
Say that again. Native speakers make mistakes all the time, but they don't get punished for it. That line alone deserves a pause. Let that sink in, everyone listening. So, Alex, let's start from the beginning. When you hear the phrase common English mistakes non-native speakers make, what's the very first thing that comes to your mind?
Fear, honestly. Because most mistakes don't come from lack of intelligence. They come from fear. Fear of being wrong, fear of accents, fear of grammar rules, fear of being laughed at. And that fear changes how people speak.
That's interesting because most people expect you to say something like grammar or pronunciation.
Those are symptoms. Fear is the cause. When someone is afraid, they overthink, they translate in their head, they hesitate, and that's when mistakes multiply.
You just described something I see all the time. People thinking in their native language, translating word by word, and then speaking. And by the time the sentence comes out, the moment is already gone.
Exactly. And then they blame themselves. They say, my English is bad. But the truth is, communication doesn't work like that.
Let's talk about one mistake that almost every non-native speaker makes at some point. Trying to sound too correct, using complicated words, complex sentences, formal structures. Why does that happen?
Because learners think good English equals difficult English. They think if they use simple words, they'll sound uneducated. But in reality, the most powerful English is simple, clear, and natural.
I love that you said that. Some of the most influential people in the world use very simple English.
Absolutely. If you listen to successful speakers, leaders, even famous entrepreneurs, their English is not complex, it's clear. But learners don't see that. They memorize advanced vocabulary lists instead of learning how to express basic thoughts confidently.
And then they freeze when they have to speak in real life.
Exactly, because real life doesn't give you time to choose the perfect word.
Let me challenge you a bit here, Alex. Some people listening might say, but grammar is important. If we don't focus on mistakes, won't our English stay bad?
That's a fair question. Grammar matters, yes, but timing matters more. When you're speaking, your goal is connection, not perfection. You can fix grammar later. You can't fix silence.
Wow, you can't fix silence. That hits deep. How many opportunities have been lost because someone stayed silent?
Too many. And what's worse is people often don't realize it's happening. They think they're being careful, but they're actually holding themselves back.
Let's make this very real for our listeners. Imagine you're in a job interview. You know the answer, but you're afraid you'll say it incorrectly. So you give a short, safe answer, not your best answer. What happens then?
The interviewer doesn't see your full ability, not because you lack skill, but because you didn't express it. And that's not an English problem. That's a confidence problem created by fear of mistakes.